Hi children, in the previous session we discussed about the parts of alimentary canal and digestion at mouth. Okay, in this session I'm going to explain about how the food is swallowed. Okay, how the food is moved through the esophagus and digestion at stomach. Okay, so we will discuss these three topics: how the food is swallowed and how the food is traveled through esophagus and digestion at a stomach. Okay, so in the previous session we discussed about the digestion at mouth. Okay, so actually the mouth leads to the empty space, so which is called as oral cavity or buccal cavity, so which mainly contain teeth and a muscular tongue. Okay, so which is also connected with the salivary glands. So there are three pairs of salivary glands are there in the buccal cavity. Okay, so the salivary glands are release the saliva. So the saliva contain salivary amylase enzyme. Salivary amylase enzyme. So which is also called ptyalin. Okay, so actually when we take the food material or ingest the food material, so the food particles are crushed by teeth and mixed by tongue. Okay, so with saliva. Okay, so the food material is crushed by teeth and mixed with the saliva by tongue. So and the food is formed as a very slippery and soft, okay, a slurry like material, so which is called as bolus. Okay, which is called as bolus. So after the formation of the bolus, so the bolus contain different kinds of the food material. Okay, in that food the carbohydrates are present, proteins, fats, and etc etc. Okay, so especially in the digestion of mouth, okay, the saliva that contains salivary amylase or ptyalin, so which mainly break down the complex carbohydrates into the simple ones. Okay, whatever the food material, for example, so if you eat rice, so the rice mainly contains starch. Okay, the starch undergo breakdown, and starch is in a complex carbohydrate polysaccharide, so which is undergo breakdown to form as in a maltose sugars, to form as in a maltose sugar. Maltose sugar is nothing but it is in a simple sugar. Okay, so the breakdown of complex molecules into the simple substances with the help of enzyme is known as digestion. Okay, so the digestion at mouth already we discussed. Okay, so now after that formation of bolus in mouth, okay, so how that bolus is entered into that esophagus and finally reach into the stomach. Okay, that we will discuss in this slide. Okay, so you watch the video, so remember it one. So when more mastication is very important to digest the food. Okay, I already told you mastication nothing but crushing of food material by teeth mixing with saliva to make a slippery and softy food material which is called as bolus, and the process or phenomenon is called as mastication. Okay, so whenever you masticate more, automatically the food material that contain digested food material that mainly digested very easily. So that's why whenever you eat anything, so you can masticate more. Okay, so when you masticate more, the food become very soft and very slippery, and it is easily digestible. Okay, now you see the physiology of your side part of your mouth. So it is in a mouth. Okay, so it is in a mouth. So when you breathe, so the air is entered into the nostrils and as well as through the mouth. Okay, so the air is entered and finally it is reached into the trachea. So the trachea to finally it is reached into the lungs. Similarly, the lungs are also release the carbon dioxide, and that air is also passed through the trachea and finally they come out through the nose and also as well as with the mouth. So just you see the video here, the air is now entered, so it is in a trachea. Okay, so actually this area is nothing but it is called as in a larynx. Okay, larynx which is helpful for the especially the entry of, okay, air into the trachea. Okay, now you see that a special type of structure that present in nearby that pharynx region, so which is called as epiglottis. So this epiglottis is in a wall like structure. Epiglottis is in a wall-like structures, so that are located nearby the pharynx area. Okay, so whenever you swallow the food material, so after the mastication, the bolus is prepared in your mouth. Okay, so after the preparation of bolus in your mouth, so you have to swallow that food material. So whenever you swallow the food material, so this food material can create a pressure on the epiglottis. That epiglottis close the pipe of windpipe, or also called as trachea. So these epiglottis close the windpipe. So the food material is enter into the esophagus. Food material enters the esophagus. So whatever the air so which come outside, so it create a pressure on the wall. Pressure on the wall. So now you see it. See this video. Okay. So actually the air which come outside, so it can create a pressure here. Okay, when the food is passed, okay, yeah, the subglottic pressure is created. Okay, the food passed into the esophagus, so the air goes outside after the swallowing food material. So the air comes inside, and when the food material is coming inside to the esophagus, automatically the esophagus closes the windpipe, and when the food is swallowed, automatically it is open. So this is a role of epiglottis by the for the swallowing food material, and that are especially entered into that esophagus only. So if food particles are wanted to enter into the windpipe, automatically, so it is refused with the subglottic pressure, so that created by the air, so which come from that lungs to the external environment through the nostrils, so that's why the epiglottis, so which is very important to entry of the food material into the esophagus. Okay, so actually the tongue helps in the mixing the food and pushing into the next part. So the lower jaws are also helps in the whole process. Okay, so just you see this thing. So whenever the food particles or food is entered into that esophagus, so esophagus is in a pipe or tube like structures, so which is connected with the upper part is connected with the pharynx area, and lower part is connected with the stomach. Okay, so when the food is swallowed, so the food is entered into the F long tubular like structure, which is called as esophagus. So actually the esophagus that create a pressure on its wall. So that's why the food material is pushed into inside to the stomach. Okay, so whenever, so these food particles or food material that pass it through that esophagus, the upper muscles that are contracted and lowers are released, and when it is moves, uppers are contracted and lowers are removed. So that's why, so it shows in a wave like movement. The esophagus are put food pipe that shows in a wave like movement for the transfer of the food material from the mouth to the stomach. Okay, this movement is called as peristaltic movement. Okay, so whatever the soft slippery bolus, so which is present in that mouth, so that is swallowed with the help of epiglottis and finally reached into the esophagus. By the muscular constriction of the esophagus, the food is moved towards the stomach by the wave-like movement. Okay, these wave-like movements are called as peristaltic movement. Okay, this peristaltic movement is very essential. So because of that inner layer of that food pipe or esophagus is especially made up with that mucilage layer. Now you see this video. Okay, if the food is so food is entered into the esophagus, so it shows a wave like movement. Okay, so the bolus that shows the wave like movement in the esophagus. Okay, so it is called as peristaltic movement. What it is called? Peristaltic movement. Okay, so after that peristaltic movement that's shown by that esophagus, the food is entered into the stomach. Okay, so just you see that stomach, so it is in a sac like structure. Okay, a bag. Okay, sac like bag, so which mainly made up with that gastric gland. The layers of that stomach mainly made up with that gastric gland. So the food material, so that are entered into that stomach. Okay, partially it is stored in the stomach for some time. Partially it is stored in the stomach for some time. So after the swallowing, immediately the food is traveled through the esophagus and reached into the stomach. Okay, in the stomach, the food is stored for some time, partially stored in some time. So during this time, so the stomach walls are especially made up with the glands, so which are called as gastric glands, which are called as gastric glands. Okay, so these gastric glands that are mainly released the two types of that are mainly due to the two types of substances. So one is hydrochloric acid. One is hydrochloric acid, and second one is a pepsin. Second one is a pepsin. So when the food is mixed in the stomach with gastric juices, okay, these two are called as, so these two are combinedly called as gastric juices. HCl pepsin is called as gastric juices. So these HCl, when it is released from that stomach wall or gastric glands, the HCl is mixed with the food material. So here the HCl that have in a mainly two type of functions. One is whatever the food contain harmful microorganisms that are killed by the HCl, and the second most important function by the HCl, so actually it maintain acidic temperature, so acidic environment, acidic pH environment in the stomach. Okay, so whenever the HCl is released into the stomach and mixed with the food material or mixed with the bolus, okay, what will be happen? The food become acidic. So in the acidic environment, the gastric glands are also release the enzyme, so which is called as pepsin. What is the enzyme? Pepsin. Okay, so this pepsin enzyme can convert convert the proteins into the peptide. Okay, so this pepsin is a very important enzyme, so it is secreted by the gastric walls. So it is especially used for the conversion of proteins into the peptides. So in the mouth, the complex carbohydrates that are converted into the simple sugars. Only the carbohydrate digestion takes place at the mouth. Okay, after the swallowing of the food, and finally the food reached into the stomach. So the stomach that contain the gastric glands release the pepsin enzyme, and this pepsin enzyme so convert the proteins into the polypeptides or proteins into the peptides. So it is an important digestion that takes place in the stomach. Okay, so there are one, the bolus, so which is combined with the gastric juices, that nothing but it is an HCl and pepsin, so to form a slurry food material in the stomach, so which is called as chyme. Okay, the food material present in the stomach is called as chyme. Okay, so here only the proteins are digested in the stomach. Only the proteins are digested. So because of the gastric glands do not release any kind of enzyme, okay, that are digested the carbohydrates and fats. Okay, so in the stomach only the proteins are digested and the proteins are converted into the peptides. So because of the pepsin is only works on acidic environment. Okay, so after that, so whatever the digested food material so that present so in the stomach is moves towards the U-shaped body of that end of that stomach, so which is mainly regulated with the sphincter, so which is called as pyrolic sphincter. Okay, so after the digestion, the chyme is moves towards the intestine. So the intestine is starts with the U-shaped body, so it is mainly regulated with that pyrolic sphincter. By the opening of this sphincter, very small amount of the food material that enter into the duodenum. So that we will discuss in the next class. Thank you.